Welcome to the Content Podcast, Conversations with Silicon Valley's Creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Curates.
Hello, this is Juan Carlos.
Today we talk with Juan Carlos Araujo. He's the founder of Empire 7 Studios and the co-founder of Powwow San Jose. Hey, how you doing, Juan Carlos? Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, Daniel.
I wanted to talk to you just because everything that's going on and kind of like, the original story that we had with you was back in like 2012 or something like that. So there's been quite a, journey and transformation in what you're doing in that time. When you started Empire 7 Studio, right? I mean, it was mainly kind of for you to do paint, and then you started opening it for shows. But in that process, what's kind of happened with Empire 7 Studios from when you opened the location to now? What's kind of been happening?
Oh man, yeah. Well, lots. So I'll try to keep it short and to the point. But a lot has happened. Of course, as many people probably do know, and for those that do not know, we lost our physical space.
Yeah.
I think about a year, to be exact. I remained a tenant there for a couple of years, working with the developers, sort of to stay somewhere in the meantime while they figured out what to do. But we started off as I guess to back it up, is we started just doing art shows for artists here locally and friends who just kind of approached us. And it was really rough in the beginning. It was like, first of all, I never signed up to do a gallery, and it sort of just evolved, and I fell into that role.
Yeah.
Just because of the interest that came from, I guess, the execution and all those things sort of started to develop.
Yeah.
I don't do this alone. I think a lot of people do not know that Jennifer Ahn is behind the scenes. Yeah. Jennifer's my partner, and she's, she has a degree. She went to San Jose State University, and so she got I think she went for photography, and so she brought a lot of influence. She also worked for the CBB at that time. There was a lot of there that she was able to bring her expertise, and then with my crazy ideas. And so I think together we both sort of would administrate and want to execute a vision that we would collectively agree on and say, let's approach, the flyers and the lighting and just all the pieces.
Yeah.
And down the road, I decided to invest even more so into the gallery, realizing that it was really something that was benefiting like so many people.
Yeah.
It was really weird because I had a day job. I worked at a paint shop.
Yeah.
I didn't have it wasn't like I was working a really like good profession where I was having like spare money to just put into a hobby or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I was literally using like the paycheck to pay my rent and to keep a place going.
Yeah.
And I was doing that off of a retail salary, but there's even a story behind all that, like knowledge that I was able to gain in the paint industry. And so I think 4 or 5 years into the space, we decided to even invest more and totally transform the venue. And I mean, I put all my life savings into it. But it really showed. The funniest thing is that my friend Andrew Gatley was just like, oh yeah, this will take us a weekend. And we ended up 5 months in mulch.
Oh yeah.
There was times where I think I cried in there one time. I'm super emotional person. And like, when it gets me,
you're like, I'm done with this. Yeah. Sure.
My back went out from throwing like just loads of like trailers of mulch to the dump. And, so all along the way, there's been a tremendous amount of support from like friends, yourself, like who helped me haul that mulch was Mark Schonberg from
Yeah.
Art Party.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, just I guess to stay on topic is, we started off as a gallery, very just DIY,
Yeah.
and evolved and decided that this was something I felt really like passionate about. And it was really weird because I was waking up in the morning, like Jen would say, "Hey, there's like a bunch of checks there for you to deliver today," and I was like, "That's my day off from my day job," and I'd like have a stack full of checks to give to people, and
Yeah.
that was just bizarre. I was like, wait, like, but it felt really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so just I think for us, it's just always wanting to get better at what we do has been a constant sort of an evolution, but also a determination to continue to top the last thing we did and sort of work on ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we started to do murals outside of the gallery. We had a pretty big parcel, and the landlord was extremely flexible with us. And we just decided to start painting walls. And so that, just like the gallery, the public art evolved as well. And so here we are now, like, I don't know, close to maybe 100 public art
Yeah.
projects
Awesome.
throughout the city of San Jose. And with that has come a tremendous amount of knowledge and a learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I remember, you know, back when I first met you, we're sitting in the gallery talking, and it was so cool to see that how you were creating this place for artists to showcase their work. And now when I look at you and think about you and Jen, is that you really have become curators and, in many ways, I think advocates for artists. Um, which is kind of interesting to see that kind of has developed over time. Um, so then, now, was it basically, how did you get connected with Powwow? How did that come about?
Well, powwow, came through some of the public art projects that we were doing. um, I started to sort of gain some interest into the festival because I started to see it on social media. Um, People I knew were going out there, and so um, somewhere along the lines, we started to do some walls ourselves, and so we sent out images, and then that's how we just started a conversation. I think I just reached out one point and just reached out to one of the founders, Jasper Wong, and I was like, hey, I'm in San Jose and I've kind of hit a wall. Like, I've tried to apply for many grants and sort of gone through that process. And, I wasn't really getting interest from some of the funding opportunities out there. Maybe it could be the fact that I'm not maybe possibly a good writer. uh, you can think you're great, but, it's I guess how you're articulating your story and what exactly you're doing, right? I've
Yeah,
also learned that, like, you're going to learn from failing, 10 grants in, 15 grants in the last 3 years. Like, you will learn, like, what
yeah,
am I doing wrong?
yeah,
So reaching out to him and letting him know, like, we are very DIY, like, this is my experience, and we have uh, some resources, and yeah, he just sort of gave me an introduction to uh, sort of a recommendation and how to pursue funders,
yeah,
sponsorships, and things like that. And not only that, I think at that time Jasper was really interested in wanting to actually bring the festival to cities that he felt more of a connection to,
yeah,
and also like had he has some history here, he has some friends here, and so he really wanted to sort of bring it to a city that he knew could really benefit from
yeah,
bringing that type of large scale public art.
yeah, yeah. So now that you currently don't have, well, I mean, in this environment, even if you did have a physical gallery, it would be difficult. But since you don't necessarily have a physical space at this particular time, what is kind of the plan with Empire 7? I know there's been a lot of different talks of some locations and collaborations and stuff, but what's kind of in the works for you? And are you even thinking that you want to have um, a gallery space, a brick and mortar gallery space?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, great question because it's hard. It's been really, I think, the last 3 years since we got our, we had to move. We, I've been working nonstop to try to find a solution.
Yeah.
There was a point where, I was like, you know what, this is kind of getting nearly impossible, and sort of like letdown after letdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you kind of want to throw in the towel, but then there's something that comes back and really makes sense, and sort of a moral boost. And we are working, I don't have much to show for it right now,
Yeah.
but we have been in conversations actually with the Triforge development group, who actually displaced us.
Oh, yeah.
um, we're trying to figure something out, and it's been really hard to share because
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx it.
Right. Totally.
I think we all know that, I personally know from my own experiences is it's really hard to share when things are in motion, and you don't want to jinx it because ultimately you don't know until that paper is signed.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I
So,
mean, I even know just from the behind the scenes of the number of conversations and, projects that we've been doing with SV Curates of like, okay, we have to have Empire 7 be a part, have to, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, even that gets a little tiring when it's like, oh, here's a possibility, here's something, the energy it takes to lead for that. And then if it changes directions, plans, scope, so I totally
oh, totally.
understand, if you don't want to share too much, but it is the goal to have another space for Empire 7. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, yeah. For me, I think, like I was telling you before, is the truth is that we had such a good momentum going with selling art, and that's one of the things that really for me was a thriving point where
Yeah.
you start to do your books and you realize, like, wow, I contributed this much to someone's year,
Yeah, it's
or
awesome.
and you sort of work together to just try to evolve and make those sales, but really get people interested in understanding the value of art and why they should hang it in their house.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I appreciate about you is that the gallery it's not really a place just to sell art. It's a community of helping support local artists. And I've always said when I first found out about Empire 7, when people would ask me like, "Oh, what's going on in the art scene?" I'd say, "Well, Empire 7 this is the most real, authentic San Jose, South Bay art. I mean, there's great art galleries and museums that we have around, but I think what you're tapped into is the heartbeat of the local, and I really appreciate that.
Thanks, man. I mean, we remain humbled. It's really interesting to sort of learn that, like, I'll be perfectly honest. I got a GED education.
Yeah,
I don't have a degree, but I think the lack of interest in school has actually inspired me to want to learn in the things that I find most interesting, right?
yeah,
So if I want to nerd out on something, I'm going to totally like sink my teeth into it and like learn the most that I can. And I think art has been that
yeah,
outlet for me. I never thought I would be an advocate or even build a community. Like, truth
yeah,
be told, I mean, truth be told, I came from a background of like a gathering of youth and sort of like a group of individuals that would use spray cans
yeah,
and come together to draw on sketchbooks and just talk about like street stuff
yeah,
and everything that's sort of, a mosh posh of skating and like for me, it was the, everything that my Mexican American culture brings to that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very lucky, like with everything that I have as far as culture around me, that is not necessarily in an institution. And so, you take this individual who's just kind of like doing something in a box, and you start feeding off of all these things. I realized that is a community that really is immediate to me, and
Yeah.
I grew into realizing that I am part of a community, and sort of fell into that, but
Yeah.
never did was that like the mission, and that feels good to sort of know that came organic.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the great thing. I mean, I think that's one of the kind of unique things about San Jose. I think, I do believe that it's not a place that is really looking for certain kind of, pedigree or education, right? I mean, it's really like people. Well, actually, it was Scott Neese from the Downtown Association told me one time, because he was helping out just when I was starting with the magazine, and he was kind of helping me get some other connections and stuff like that. And I was just like, thank you so much. And he says, well, when you see a seed that's starting to grow, you want to water it. And I feel like, yeah, that's kind of like what is kind of happened with the journey with Empire 7. And I think that's kind of like the uniqueness in San Jose, is that there are people that want to help things succeed.
Yeah, I think when we got to give a shout out to my friend Pat Para. um, Pat actually helped me set up the GoFundMe campaign.
Yeah.
And actually, we are working on several projects and rebuilding a physical gallery space.
Yeah.
And that money still is reserved for that space.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what I realized with the GoFundMe was that the extreme amount of support that we do have. I think that's what you were talking about, was
Yeah.
the community. Yeah, that for me was like, because Pat and I, we talked about it. It's like, he's like, yo, like, I know we didn't raise like this crazy amount of money, but do you realize like how much people love Empire 7 Studios?
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, like, that's for real. Like, that really was a shocker. I think I had a friend calling like the council member every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm excited that there is plans to continue to push forward, and I appreciate you and Jen. I mean, it's blood, sweat, and tears, and your own money and time in order to make that happen. And it is great, the community wanting to support that. I mean, I think we need you guys here in the community. So now, what's going on next with Powwow? I mean, is it 3 years?
This is our third, going on our fourth year, actually.
Yeah.
We started in 2017. And this year we were actually hoping to really go big. That was sort of an idea. And obviously with everything happening, like,
Yeah.
a lot has changed. Right now, it's really unpredictable what we can do. But
Yeah.
I think for us, we sort of look at more of what we do internally, right, as curators and administrators, and trying to understand like where our role really could benefit right now, and
Yeah.
and plug it in. So being considerate to all that's happening, and versus just jumping into sort of like, hey, I'm gonna do an online. I think everything that's going on live and all that's great,
Yeah.
but I sort of also think right now I want to just, for me, it's been interesting to just, understand everything that's happening. And then I think a big part of my time too, I've been, one thing I didn't mention is that I was public arts commissioner for this round for 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
With the city of San Jose, right?
with this, yeah, city of San Jose. So
Yeah.
it's you volunteer for the position. It's not paid or nothing, but you learn a tremendous amount of what's going on. And so I just been diving into a lot of that and seeing what's happening in my local, communities and how the other, impacts are happening versus outside of like art, but also how art can have a role,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just really, I think for us, powwow right now is obviously going to take a huge loss, and possibly with funding. I already got turned down for. It's interesting because this year we prepared even earlier. we
Right.
we
Yeah.
started writing grants.
Right.
I mean, when I mean we is Stacy Kellogg, is also director now,
Yeah.
and Jennifer Ahn. So us three are just trying to really navigate and understand what is going to be an opportunity to really come in and do something that's going to help
Yeah.
and continue to, I think we get lost in Stacy, big shout out to her too, because she's like, you don't value what you do enough.
Yeah.
she and that's a big problem that I have. And it's not that I don't value it. I effing love it more than anything, but
Yeah.
I think the I think the struggle has always taught me, like, yo, if I sit in this comfort seat, I'm not gonna, that's gonna wear out.
Yeah.
That comfort level is gonna go away, and so I'm constantly just trying to make sure that um, I'm not gonna need rent money or
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's hard. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being in, the South Bay and being an artist is not a lucrative business. I mean, it's a struggle. I mean, with the cost of living here, right?
yeah, it is, and I think right now, I'm very lucky because I mean, truth be told, I'm a painter, and I am, running a lot of administrative work that sort of isolates me.
Yeah.
And in the last few years since I lost the space, that's one of the things I kind of miss from having the galleries is seeing the faces and just having
Yeah.
that genuine, like, hello, how are you, and who are you, and
Yeah.
meeting new people. Um, but it's also like a big eye-opening experience to see how much work we do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because I could be happily indoors for 14 hours and be knocking out work, and
Yeah.
yeah. So this for us is I'm pretty fortunate that I'm sort of acclimated to this lifestyle
Right.
of not being out all the time anymore. I sometimes miss out on a lot of stuff, and um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it hasn't been too hard.
I was talking to Sean Boyles about it, and he was saying like, he's like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's like I could do that. I could stay in and paint for weeks, without even leaving.
Yeah, he's been doing it for years.
Right, exactly. Now, so have you been working on your own stuff a little bit more recently, or how's that going?
Yeah. So because we moved officially like a year ago, right? And when I had to move, I basically moved the remainder of Empire 7 into my garage,
Yeah,
and I've been sorting out. And we started actually before the pandemic and the shutdown.
yeah,
We started to organize our home and readjust and sort of set ourselves up. So we did another round of cleaning around the house, and I was able to set up a studio in the house. And I actually knocked out like they're not big paintings, but I knocked out a whole what I'm calling a collection of new work
yeah. Awesome.
in like the first 2 weeks. I actually had to sort of pinch myself and get out of it because I felt like I started neglecting all my other work painting.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's I dive into it, and I feel like it feels great, but it's also once like you're like, even Jen is like, hey, let's hang out, and it's like, no,
Let's
I'm
eat.
painting, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then you start, and even like the lack of sleep, and I'm like awake, like really up early sometimes, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a whole different like time warp thing,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I'm stoked. I finished the whole thing already.
Yeah. Awesome. Are you gonna show that? Is that the plan to kind of do something once the shelter's out to kind of do a show somewhere?
Yeah, I hope if somebody wants to show it.
You could do it at the Empire 7 Garage edition.
No kidding. Well, probably a virtual gallery too now could be an option, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, yeah, I hope, I definitely hope I can gain the interest of somebody. And actually, yeah, a few friends actually reached out about the show. So I got to just check in and
Yeah.
see
Awesome.
if we're on the same page. I think sometimes, you want to make sure, like, as someone who has their own space, I just don't want to force like my art on your
Right.
venue. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
it's a good fit, great, and if it's not, like possibly they can point you in the right direction, and or it could
Yeah.
end up in good. You really want to find your market that way, I think.
Yeah. So being now more than just an artist and gallery owner, but a curator, what's kind of like your, I would say, like your goal or your focus for this next kind of phase of your life that you're in?
For me, it's most importantly, I think, is trying to focus on your health. um,
Yeah.
are some of the things, and just growth, I think, keeping keeping an open mind. I've actually been learning a tremendous amount from my team,
Yeah.
from Stacy and Jennifer.
Yeah.
They bring up perspective that I don't have. I might, we all have I think our an opportunity to bring something different, right?
Yeah.
If and sync up somewhere in the middle. And so right now, I think in terms of business, our goal is actually to continue doing what we are doing, but also uh, package our product in a way where we've accomplished a tremendous amount of coverage and square footage and sort of in scale, and
Yeah.
so we're really want to be we want to be part of the the movement forward of public art
Yeah.
installations and the larger picture of public art, right? So
Yeah.
I think for us it's just continuing to evolve, and along the line still also be able to keep continuing doing the work that is almost just natural for us to do, which with gallery exhibitions, and whether it's a festival, and Empire Center Studios. We were doing artist in residencies in the space, and
Yeah.
so we really want to be prepared for the next 10 years. So
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
think right now for me, it's just really my dream has always been to like once I decided, like I was telling you, to invest all my money and build a space that I was like so passionate about.
Yeah.
Like for me, my biggest dream is to actually build a company
Yeah.
that has. There's only so much I can do in my capacity,
Yeah.
and my imagination is filled, with ideas. But we need people
Yeah.
to who are equally passionate to administer those ideas, to execute, and really understand the bigger picture, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. I read this thing with Chet Ferry a long time ago, and how he kind of built his little empire, I guess you want to call it. And I mean, man, that guy kind of there's so many examples, but that's just one that sort of I guess sticks out in terms of just art. And We all know that he started doing the work that he did on the street, and
Yeah.
then gallery, and then clothing, and then he sells the clothing line.
Yeah.
Now it's like he's uh, still an influence and man, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He's, yeah.
So it's kind of like a full circle, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's a way to create a sustainability and have be in this for the long run.
Yeah.
One thing I'm very fortunate about is, sometimes you feel like you're hard headed and kind of narrow minded, but one of the things that I've sort of learned that in these last few weeks is I'm very very lucky to have kind of like a firm goal to
Yeah.
say like this is our value
Yeah.
and this is what you should pay us, because nothing is guaranteed next week, and here we are stuck in our homes the last 3 months or
Yeah.
going on 3 months, and you know you have to the clients, it's like what we do and how we invest ourselves as whether you want to call yourself a creative or whatever hat you wear, um, there's that something to fall back on, and
Yeah. Totally.
the short term thinking here really does sort of remind me that stick to what you're doing, because it's sort of working. It's
Yeah.
working right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So as a like a curator, what's some of the places that you kind of like enjoy like investigating, finding in art and stuff like that?
I think lately I think one of the things that I've been going to lately is sort of because we haven't had a physical space, and just I've been going down this memory lane, and
Hmm.
I have all these files of old photos of the old gallery.
Yeah.
And so just kind of revisiting like all the faces and the people who were part of the space early on, and continue to be part of it,
Yeah.
um, is always an inspiration for me, because that's kind of like the root.
Yeah.
But outside of that has always been for me is I love the streets and everything the streets offer. There's so much out there.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the street has always sort of kind of been more of an easy thing for me, realizing how hard it is for other people to like kind of be in tune of what street culture really is,
Yeah.
authentically. But the influence for me in art is, just young friends. I think the youth is always inspiring, and seeing what the next generation is going to bring.
Yeah.
Um, it's really interesting. I feel like I'm more in tune to the younger generation than something in between somehow, because I don't know.
Huh.
I just feel like there's something different happening there. There's a
Yeah.
lot of contemporary art happening right now that's very minimal, and um, you know, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Oh
Robbie and
yeah.
Lottie
Totally.
too. Like
Yeah.
they're like just I
I
just
love
love
them.
that
Yeah.
they're out there doing what they do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's such a good lens to tune into.
Yeah. Yeah. They're great. So for you, who besides yourself, who is probably like in San Jose in the South Bay, one of the artists that you're a big fan of?
Well, I think just back to the root, and I'm sure this is probably biased, which is
Sure, that's
totally
fine.
against
No,
my,
that's fine though.
which is totally against my belief in so many ways. But I don't know if you guys could, I guess, be the judge of that. But it, he's no longer living here. But Ben Alexi, for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
has always been like, and this is why I probably say bias is for one, he's a good friend of mine, and
Right.
but that dude really saw. He really he was one of those guys that really was like, no man, you could do whatever you want. I remember telling him one day like, hey, I need to go to school and I need to learn how to be an artist and all that, and he's like, and he was so just he's always been he's like such a just he's one of those straight edge people, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
not to say he's a like I don't want to label him in a bad way. He said wholesome is the right word, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Wholesome
Yeah.
and pure.
Yeah.
I've always found, and so I've had these channels of friends, and encountering someone like Ben was a total different type of friend in my life.
Yeah.
That we would have serious conversations, and so, but yeah, in terms of like a painter and in the scale that he paints
Yeah.
and the detail that he puts in the research. I was just talking to him actually the other day. He's like, oh yeah, I just finished the basically he creates these models, and then once he
Yeah.
does the
He
model,
blows them.
then he goes and blows them up,
Yeah.
then he photographs it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it that's just then he'll do like 3 studies until he finally does the oil kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think in terms of where his ideas come from and what he's painting, it's always a surprise.
Yeah.
In the sense that, uh, like he sticks to his voice and what he believes and what he wants to do. He has a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah. That's cool. Right on.
and
Awesome.
and to add to that is like he inspired cycling.
Yeah.
He's a bike mechanic at
Yeah.
Slough, and we would ride bikes. And this is before cycling was even like cool and
Yeah.
whatnot. And so he actually inspired like not only that, and also like a big advocate for just like eating healthy, right? Like
Yeah.
he can scarf down a burrito, but he'll still eat a bunch of nuts and berries,
Yeah.
like.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Awesome. Any last thing you would really want to tell people or say or anything like that?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of would love the opportunity to again thank you.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Um, I don't know if people know, but I mean, you've given me a truck. um, so many things, man, because of, and this is the thing that I was going to tell you is like, because of that job at Valley Fair, I had to quit my job. My
Oh.
boss was no longer like okay with me taking time off.
Oh, snap. So I owe you money?
No,
Back rent?
no, that was the leap. That was you have to understand. Like as growing up, I left home at 14, so I didn't have like that security to go home and be like, yeah, okay, I can just go back home.
Right.
So I always had to have some kind of income, even if I was crashing on somebody's couch. I was going to the flea market and I was getting like enough money to survive, right?
Yeah.
So it was really hard to leave a security blanket, you know what I mean? An income.
Yeah.
So I took the leap of faith and I took that job. And since then, I have not had to go back to working a retail job. So I've been
Awesome.
persistent. So thank you for that. And thank you, SP Creates, for, Connie Martinez and Alexandra. Everybody at the SP Creates team has also been a big champion of powwow and a big reason why we're able to produce this event.
Yeah.
With all the support and sponsorship that they do for us, and the amount of administrative work that you guys also do there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, everybody stay safe. I got a lot of love for San Jose, and
Yeah.
we just can't wait to get back out there and doing what we love to do.
Yeah. I'm excited to see the future, and it'll be fun to have that journey together.
Yeah, we look forward to opening up our doors
Yeah. Yeah.
and seeing everybody come out,
Yeah.
and it'll be different because it's not going to be in a warehouse anymore. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
evolution is good.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Really
Awesome.
appreciate it, Daniel.
Yeah. Thank you, Juan Carlos, and say hi to Jen for me, and we'll talk to you later.
You bet. You guys take care.
Thanks. Bye. Follow Empire 7 Studios on Instagram at Empire 7 Studios and also Powwow San Jose. In addition to publishing Content Magazine, SV Curates also provides tools and resources for artists and arts organizations. From time to time, we'll be checking in with Alyssa to find out what's going on. Hey, Alyssa, how you doing?
Hey, Daniel. I wanted to let you know about an upcoming two-part webinar we have on leading others through change. It's May 21st and May 28th. We're doing it in partnership with Center for Excellence in Nonprofits. And you can find more information and links to register on our website at svcreates.org.
Thank you for listening to the Content Podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag and subscribe at content-magazine.com. This episode's music is by Sakura. You can follow her on Instagram.